Fairy tales and magical girl anime. Two things that I greatly enjoy, but I'm sure people would give me a strange look for saying I am a fan of. After all, being invested in princesses and love stories and feminine stuff is weird for a guy, right? Like I care. Which is why I've decided to tell you all about an anime that masterfully mixes the fairy tale and magical girl genres together, creating something entirely new and unique, but unfortunately hasn't received as much attention as I feel it deserves. I'm talking, of course, about Princess Tutu. I'm gonna be honest. This anime can be pretty hard to explain to anyone who hasn't watched it. A mix of ballet and classical music and magical girl tropes and a fairy tale premise, it is also much more than that. It's also about unconditional love and sacrifice and free will and not getting what you want. And while it follows a lot of fairy tale and magical girl tropes, it also finds a way to deconstruct all that and find its own identity. I think the best I can do is try to start with the plot and explain as I go. As the story opens, our protagonist Duck, who is a cute little pond duck, watches a boy dancing on her lake, and she wishes more than anything that she could dance with him. Her wish is granted when a mysterious figure named Drosselmeyer gives her a pendant that transforms her into a girl. A clumsy, awkward, voice that sounds like she's quacking girl, but a girl nonetheless. Also, she studies ballet at an academy, but she's by far the worst student. Jeez, talk about a tough break. But all is not lost, as the boy she saw dancing at her lake is also a student at the academy. However, he just happens to be a prince from a fairy tale who escaped into the real world and shattered his own heart to defeat an evil raven. Shut up and just go with it. Anyway, when the prince, Muto, falls out of a window, Duck rushes to save him and discovers that her pendant allows an additional power-up, the power to transform into the magical ballerina, Princess Tutu. This is where the magical girl aspect of the show comes in, with her protagonist trying her best to go about her daily life, an evil threat appearing to disrupt balance, and then her transforming to her other form to defeat the evil threat, seeing as only Princess Tutu can find and restore the missing fragments of the prince's heart. Along the way, we also meet Fakir, Muto's overprotective roommate and guardian, as well as Rue, Duck's rival in both dance and Muto's affections. Now, while this alone does make for a pretty good show, it's all the extra layers which for me make it go above and beyond. There's just so much more going on to bring this story to life. For instance, remember how I mentioned that Duck studies ballet and how as Princess Tutu she's a magic ballerina? That's because Princess Tutu takes place in a ballet-focused universe with a lot of its plot elements borrowing from ballets like Swan Lake. Even the action sequences are choreographed like ballet, with climatic clashes being in the form of a dance sequence. As for the music, there's just something about hearing a classical piece that is both appropriate to the show and deeply satisfying. Similar to Your Lie in April, I love that the show uses all sorts of classical music, which in my opinion is a much underrated genre. As for the characters, well, I thought the Duck was adorable and likable since the very beginning. She might have a lot of faults, but the way she cares about others and her dedication to the one she loves is admirable. Not only that, but I thought she was a good source of comic relief. As for the rest of the main cast, well, it can be kind of slow at first, but they develop quite nicely as the series progresses. It's funny because you think they will fit certain character roles, and I guess in a way they start off fitting into specific categories, but as the show goes on, they go through some pretty extensive character development. I won't go into detail of how exactly all the characters change, so as not to spoil anything, but it's the kind of thing where friends become enemies, and enemies become friends, you know? The characters really do grow as the series progresses, and it's interesting to see how their hopes and motivations fuel them. The aspect of the show that impresses me the most, however, is when the curtain gets pulled back to reveal that there is more happening than you first thought. You see, although I wouldn't call the overall show dark, there is still this feeling of dread as the story progresses. What starts off as a simple magical girl story becomes something much more when we find out that the man who wrote the fairy tale that the prince and the evil raven escaped from is a sadist who wants to create the ultimate tragedy for all the characters. Case in point, throughout her journey, Duck is burdened with saving Muto, and you really want for her to succeed so she can be with the one she loves. But she can never confess her love for him, or she would turn to a speck of light and disappear forever. What's interesting to note is that while many modern day magical girl anime would use this as an excuse to go super dark and violent and outright torture its cast, Princess Tutu never does that. At every turn, the characters fight back harder than ever to avoid the tragedy that their creator has planned out for them, and throughout it all, even when fighting against destiny itself, the show never stops being about the power of hope and love and the fight for free will. That's something I can respect. As mentioned before, so many other shows act like they have something to say, but end up trying too hard and come off as dark and edgy instead. Princess Tutu does its own thing because it understands what it is, a fairy tale. And ultimately, the point of a fairy tale is to bring a little magic into the lives of those who consume them. If this all sounds too simple to you, and like it's purposely going for a "and they lived happily ever after" thing, then trust me, it doesn't. It actually has a bittersweet ending, going against some of the more common constructs and not doing what you expect. So, did I explain the anime well enough? Well, at the time of recording this, who knows? However, I hope I did because it seems to be an anime that doesn't get a lot of attention, and as anyone who has watched it can attest, it deserves to be watched by everyone. Look, I get it. An anime about a little duck who can transform into a little girl, and then she dances ballet to fight evil, sounds weird. Especially when I tell you that you should keep watching because apparently there are some more complex themes under the surface. But trust me when I say that the show is a very unique experience that you do not want to miss out on. Once you start watching, I don't think you'll regret it. But hey, that's just my opinion. And remember, don't take anything I say too seriously. After all, I'm just the Wannabe Reviewer. Thanks for watching. And so we come to the end. To everyone who took the time to watch this video, thank you, and thank you again. Any and all feedback is welcome, so feel free to like, dislike, share, or comment below. And if you thought I did well, why not subscribe and ring the bell? The people who made the art and new intro for my channel are in the description below, so why not check them out? I hope to jump down the meter rabbit hole with you all again soon. Until next time.